And how are you all doing? I hope you've been well over this break that you may be on right now. If you're in the United States, we are currently in the middle of our Thanksgiving holiday here. And I wanted to discuss that a little bit. I did want to say that there are different competing elements that discuss the historical connection of the holiday and pros and cons and all that. And I don't want to really get into all of that. I'll let you do your own research and make your own determinations about all of that. But the holiday itself is not necessarily for me about all of the historical aspects and things like that. And I wanted to share with you what I think about the holiday and how it relates to me. And for me, the biggest part of it is in the word itself, Thanksgiving. It's a time that I have the chance to really give thanks in my mind and my thoughts to the things that I am grateful for. And for me as well, happiness is a difficult thing. I feel that for sure. It's difficult to manage, to try to work on being happy on a consistent basis. But I can say one of the biggest elements for me is I did struggle with, depression in the past. That one of the biggest elements for me in overcoming that was a focus on gratitude. And I think it's one of the key elements in the equation of figuring out how to be happy in a world that can sometimes be challenging to be happy in. And I wanted to share with you, I guess, a few anecdotes throughout my life that have helped to guide me to where I'm at in my view of being thankful for various things. One of the examples I think of too, back when I was younger, just out of high school, I had a friend whose mother had been diagnosed with cancer. And it was difficult for him, but at the same time he expressed something to me that at the time seemed very profound. And that was the idea that he was grateful. He was grateful that they had gotten this diagnosis, that many people, when they lose their mother or their father, that it's in the middle of the night, it's a heart attack, it's various different things, car accident or something like that, and they never get the chance to say goodbye. And so while he was facing the reality of this terminal illness for his mother, he was able to look at, the benefit of knowing in advance and being able to spend that time with his mom and to say their proper goodbyes. And I remember this actually when I went through the same thing with my own father. When he was diagnosed with cancer, they thought he wouldn't have long to live. He ended up getting 2 more years. At one point, we had some hope that he might actually make it through with the treatments that he was given. And I remember when the oncologist, after he had passed, had expressed sadness. It was difficult for him. It's very difficult a lot of times for doctors who are taking care of patients that are within cancer treatments to lose their patient. It's hard on them as well. They're human. And he had expressed remorse that he was not able to save our father, and I had sent him a letter. I wrote it by hand to tell him that I was grateful for all that he had done, because by any stretch, we're not granted that. We're not owed this by life. It's no guarantee that you'll get a chance to spend that much time, and by some measures, perhaps we as a family got more time than we otherwise would have due to his efforts and his care. And he was very personable, and that made a big difference in the quality of my father's life in his final years. And so I wanted to, I guess, express to you as well. I'm sure that many of you are young, and I think that when I was that age, I didn't realize, that all of this can be gone in a moment. Your life, a relative's life, a friend's life. There's so many things that you take for granted when you're young. You might feel, superhuman perhaps, and that you're going to be forever, your health is forever, and it's, even if somebody tells you, like I'm telling you right now, you can acknowledge it in the moment rationally, but then in the next moment we move on and we forget about these things and we think about things that are not good. When I'm sick, for instance, I get so sick at times that you just wish, I would do anything to be well. Gosh, I would just be so happy if I just didn't have this fever and cough and sore throat and body aches and all these things. I just wish I wasn't experiencing it. And you get to the other side of being ill, and it's 2 weeks later, and you've forgotten. You've forgotten that you promised yourself how happy you would be if you just weren't sick. And we just take that time of wellness for granted. And so your family, a lot of times we take these things that we might have around us, a roof over our head, electricity, a device right now that you're watching this video on. Not everyone in the world has access to these things. Not everyone in the world right now has heat, right? And so we sometimes don't think about the fact of how blessed we are. I remember specifically there was a time when I was a teacher before I started my channel at a different company, and they had an SAT boot camp. And the students in there, they don't realize perspective-wise that they were attending. It's like 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, so that they can try to maximize their SAT score. And sometimes there would be a little bit of resentment. My mom and dad make me come here. They're making me do this. Never thinking about the fact that that's your mom and dad's love a lot of times. They want you to have success in life, and it's an opportunity that many people don't get to have. And so while they do lose access to perhaps some of the recreational activities that other students might take upon themselves in the summertime, and they need to attend this class and lose a lot of free time that they would rather be doing other things. Yet when you think about it, there are places in the world right now that still exist that people that live there. One example that comes to mind, because I had done some research on it, but there's many places like this. This is by far not the only place where such things happen, is a place like North Korea. And oftentimes in that country, if you were to express things against the government or the leader of that government, they would be thrown into a prison camp, and not just them, but their whole family as well. And they would subsist on about 1/2 of a can of corn a day. They had no access to anything, and they would work in these slave camps for 10 years, 12 years, or until they were killed. And it's really kind of sad. And when you think about people that are in those situations, be it North Korea or any of the other countries around the world who don't have the luxury of being able to watch on a device like you're watching right now. And it's easy to forget sometimes, wherever we're at in life, there's always going to be somebody with greater advantages than us. But we must never forget that we also have advantages. And I just wanted to encourage you, if you're spending time with your family, never hesitate to tell your mom, your dad, maybe write them a handwritten letter just to say thank you, just to let them know how much they mean to you, because I can tell you firsthand that that's not always possible to do. And once that day comes and you're on the other side of it, you're gonna look back and you're gonna say, I wish I would have said, I love you one more time, or thank you, or expressed how much they meant to me. This goes for your friends and as well your brothers or sisters or cousins and those kinds of people in your life. Take a moment to let them know. Don't think it's gonna sound cheesy or anything like that. It's going to make a difference. It makes the world a better place. And I think that you'll never, ever regret the efforts that you made in that regard. And I just wanted to really encourage you. I like to think every day about all the things there are to be grateful for. I just had a student recently applying for their university, and their mom had migrated here to get away from the country they were in, where they were not allowed freedom of speech. They couldn't say what they wanted to say. If the government didn't agree with that, it could cause problems for them. And so they had migrated here for that reason a few years ago, about 3 years ago now. And they're a very happy person, and I don't want to mention them on channel, but that's their personal life. And so, I have this quote up here that I'm going to share with you. If you know me, I really like Stoic philosophy. Stoicism to me is also a great means. Now there's elements of Stoicism that perhaps they went too far with their beliefs, and this is the joy of being human. You can listen to speakers and take things that you like from what they say and utilize it, and the things that you don't like or don't agree with, you don't have to utilize. We're not obligated to believe anyone who speaks anything to us. We're allowed to reason and judge for ourselves. And so I really liked this quote. It came from Epictetus. And it says, every event has two handles, the one by which it may be carried, the other by which it cannot. If your brother acts unjustly, don't lay hold of the action by the handle of his injustice, for by that it cannot be carried, but by the opposite, that he is your brother, that he was brought up with you, and thus you will lay hold of it as it is to be carried. And the idea here is that you're going to have experiences with other people. It could be family. There could be things between you and a relative or even a friend at your school. And there's going to come times when it's going to be they're going to treat you unjustly. They're human, and humans fail you. I'm sorry if this is a shock to you or a surprise, but people are going to let you down throughout your life. And you're going to have to decide how to navigate that. I once had a boss. And this is at a previous employer, and he was my immediate boss at that time. And he was not good at all. He totally mistreated the employees. He was arrogant, and he would dress you down, which basically means criticize you, in front of the customers. Right? They would just tear you apart right there and make you look bad, and it was really disheartening. And yet, at the same time, I was grateful for that. I was grateful that I had the opportunity to experience the workplace with someone that I did not respect. And I still don't. And that's okay. I still gained something from it. I learned how to face adversity in a workplace and still maintain my composure and still work as best as I could. Even this channel, you might not know this, but prior to the launch of this channel, I had never owned a laptop. I just couldn't afford it. And my employer at the time, they loaned me the money to be able to purchase this. They paid for it, and I made payments back to them so that I could get a laptop, which is what I used to launch this channel. Without that, this channel doesn't exist, right? All the things in your life that you might face that are adversities, perhaps your test score, right? You might think, oh, I failed and I wasted this whole year, and there's lots of negativity associated with that. I would say no matter what, you succeeded. You were blessed. You had an opportunity to challenge yourself, to prepare, to learn, to grow. And for that, for me, when I get those kinds of opportunities, I try to look at them as a blessing. A university professor that I once had talked about not letting your blessings become burdens. And the same thing with those classes those kids took in the summertime, where they allowed a blessing that they got to attend a class become a burden for them. And how sad this is, that people across the world in different situations would let their right leg be amputated so that they could have the chance to sit in a class preparing for SAT to eventually pursue an education. And yet these students, because they're surrounded by people just like them, they don't realize what a blessing it was they had, and they saw it as a negative experience. So that's what I like to think about. I like to reflect on all the things I have, from the sun coming up the next morning, from access to whatever resources, internet or phone or friends or family. And all of that really helps me to appreciate the things that I have around me and in life in general. I asked my family some of the things that they were grateful for, and here's a couple responses that I got. One of them, my brothers mentioned a healthy mind, body, and spirit, the ability to learn and grow, having love in my heart. And another one had mentioned they're thankful for the lessons that they've learned, the trials they've been through, the heartbreaks, the healing, the skills I've learned. And so I want to encourage you to reflect on your life. What things are you grateful for? What parts of your family could you maybe reach out? Have you talked to grandma? Have you talked to grandpa lately? Reach out and let them know how much you value them in your life and appreciate all of those people who came before you that made sacrifices so you could be where you are at today. And a lot of times those things go unthanked. Maybe you could reach out and express your thankfulness to them. One other person I did want to mention is a person I met through this channel, Dr. Junaid Mansuri. He's become a good friend of mine, and I'm grateful for him. And I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you that watched the channel, that told me, what you think of my teaching and appreciation. Again, it may come as a surprise, but a previous employer, not one that I've worked for in a long time, They once told me, this is in California, that I don't know how to teach and that I should quit teaching and become an actuary because I'm not very good at it. And it was very discouraging. I remember I heard that and I thought this is not for me. I was in school at the time to try to be a teacher. I had been tutoring for a while and they expressed this. Now, in retrospect, I came to understand that as they'd never watched me teach. They were basing this off of a few students who complained because they got homework and they didn't like that. And so it was really their kind of ignorant comment, but it still cut to the heart a little bit. You're going to receive criticism in your life, and some of it will be just and some of it will be unjust. Be grateful for both. I carried their words of kind of belittling my ability to teach like a chip on my shoulder. And it served as a very strong motivator to get to where I am today. So you too, whatever you might hear as you go through life about what you can and cannot do, I encourage you to accept none of it. You do the best you can and be grateful for everything as much as you possibly can. Try to find the handle by which things can be carried. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed your break. I'll get back to filming as soon as I can summon the motivation to get back to filming. I just needed a little bit of a break. I hope you've enjoyed your holiday here if you're not in the U.S. where you don't celebrate Thanksgiving or you don't celebrate it here in the U.S. I still hope you've enjoyed the break and you can still reflect on the things that you're thankful for. You guys have a great one. I'll see you around.